Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting of the East Bend Board of School Directors is called to order. Will you please rise and join me in the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business tonight is our report from our student government reps. We have Jared Kohler and Alex Comfort here tonight, so we invite them to present their report.
During February, we had 20 athletes sign for District 1 or D1 and D2 college commitments. And we had 20 athletes, and they have a total of $2.1 million in scholarships. There was 8 sports represented. The 20 of them had an average GPA of 3.32. There were 8 captains, and among the 20 of them, there were 91 letters earned. As for winter sports, boys basketball finished their season with a 20-4 record, and David Caparise at the last game against Freedom scored 28 points, putting him as the all-time leading scorer for Emmaus basketball in Emmaus basketball history, with 1,762 points scored throughout his 4 years here. Wrestling has finished their season with 6-6. Reed Custer earned the number 2 seed in districts, and Kapora and Wright also earned 4th in that competition for their weight tile. Boys swimming finished their season 11-0 in the EPC and 11-1 overall, and they just beat Parkland with a recent victory of 98-88. Girls swimming also beat Parkland 100-86. Their record was 11-0 in the EPC and 12-1 overall. Rifle team finished with an 8-1 overall mark. They had second place in their league, and in states they got 4th, which is a great accomplishment. And girls basketball finished their season with a 9-13 record overall. And to conclude, all the spring sports are starting up their practice, so I look forward to updating you on that.
All right, so for some other events, I talked to you last time I was here about Mr. Emmaus, which was overall a huge success. Senior Jason Cushy was the winner out of 12 fantastic contestants. Judging was done by Wesley Works, George Druclas, and Becca Lynn. Patronage from the student government helped garner interest in local business through advertisements that we raised money for in the program. Ultimately, it was a great night with a lot of fun, and excitement, and hilarious talents. So next up, the musical, Miss Saigon, is closing in, and the rehearsals are getting longer and longer, and soon the set will begin construction. The show runs from March 14th for all gold card holders through the 19th. Tickets are being sold at lunch and online, but are going quickly. Hopefully this year can lead to more Freddies for the school. And finally, we have Shape for the Brave. So the 5th Shape for the Brave charity fundraiser, sponsored by the Emmaus Pediatric Cancer Club, will be held on Friday, March 24th, 2017 at 5 p.m. in the gymnasium. Shavies will voluntarily shave their heads for kids' cancer research by collecting monetary donations. If going bald isn't for you guys, you can come and cheer on the Shavies and honor at least 20 local families affected by pediatric cancer who are going to share their stories. Online, you can see increasing donations and updates about the event and compare them to the funds raised in past years and the total number of Shavies. It looks to be another great success for this year. That's all.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for our student representatives? Well, thank you for being with us tonight. You're welcome to stay as long or as little as you like. And if you need to go now, you can certainly escape now. Thank you so much. Next, we have requests to address the board. I've received 3 of them. First, Lori Freiblin of Macungie on the 7 Generations Charter School.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Lori Freiblin. I'm president of the board at 7 Generations Charter School, and I'm here tonight to strongly encourage you to approve the renewal of our charter. 7 Gen offers a unique opportunity for its students through our curricular framework, EIC, which stands for Environment as an Integrated Context for Learning. EIC has proven to increase student performance on standardized assessments. We've also seen improvement in critical thinking, problem solving, and decision-making skills. Students are engaged and enthusiastic for learning, and students demonstrate greater pride and ownership of their learning due to the increase of project-based learning and school student choice. Through EIC, students view their environment in 2 ways: how it affects them and how they affect it. Students at 7 Gen are regularly out in the community to conduct research, apply their learning, learn about careers, and conduct service learning. In 2012, 7 Gen was nationally recognized as being an EIC model school, the only one in Pennsylvania. Dr. Patricia Bathis, Environment and Ecology Curriculum Advisor for the Pennsylvania Department of Education, has stated that 7 Gen is a shining example for the kind of educational program that addresses the environment and ecology standards. Personally, myself, as an educator of 25 years, I look at what the staff at 7 Gen does every day, and it encourages me to be a better teacher. From my experiences as a parent of a former 7 Gen student, I believe in school choice. As parents, we all need to do what's best for our children. 8 years ago, my local traditional public school was not providing the best education for my son. I heard about this new school in Emmaus. I researched it and scheduled a tour. I knew the moment I walked into 7 Gen, this was the place for my son. My son's time at 7 Gen not only prepared him for the honors courses he is now acing at Iyer Middle School, but also gave him the skills and opportunities to be a leader and critical thinker, skills that will last him a lifetime. For these reasons and many, many more, I again strongly encourage you to approve the renewal of our charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Maria Schaller of Coopersburg, also on the 7 Generations Charter School.
Hi, good evening. My name is Maria Schaller, and I live in Coopersburg, which is in the Southern Lehigh School District. I'm the mother of 3 boys. There's a current 2nd grader, a current 1st grader, and then an incoming kindergartner to 7 Generations Charter School. And when we moved to this area just before our first son was born, we chose Southern Lehigh School District because it is a top-rated school district in the area, and we thought it would be a good place to be. Then once our kids actually got to be school age and we researched, we had heard about 7 Generations and looked into it, we chose to send them there, not because we had any problems with the school district we live in. It's a great district, but we just felt like this was such a better match to the ideals and the values that we are living in our home. They are mirrored in 7 Gen's values and reinforced there, which is what I think a school should be about, is reinforcing what you do at home and vice versa. Right now, both of my older sons who are there are testing above their grade level in their reading and their math levels, so I feel like they are excelling at this school. They enjoy it, they love it, and I love that the way that they're learning their reading and their math are by getting outdoors. Just on Friday when it was nice out, they decided to hike to the park and learn math in the park that day instead of sitting at their desks, and I think for boys in particular that's really important. So I, as well, strongly encourage you to renew the charter because we're lucky enough to live in an area where there are a lot of options with charter schools, but this is the only one that I would choose to send my kids to, and I'm very glad that I have that option right now, so that I hope that it continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Brandy Blows and students on the school calendar.
Just to my height. Does it go that low? Good evening. My name is Brandy Blows, and I'm a 5th grade English language arts teacher at Lincoln Elementary. I'm here tonight with some of my students to present opinion persuasive letters that were written by my classes about an issue that's important to them. The students and I went through the steps of the writing process for these letters together as a shared writing activity, so as to provide a model to guide them as they begin writing their own individual opinion and persuasive pieces. Each class created a clear opinion statement, followed by a list of reasons to support it. That part was easy. When it came time to put ourselves into the shoes of someone who may oppose our opinion about this issue, we had a difficult time. So last Wednesday afternoon, Dr. Schilder and Dr. Munson were kind enough to join the 5th graders at Lincoln for a discussion about our issue and to provide us with information that we could use in our writing. From there, we constructed one letter in each class, which the students would like to share with you this evening. To me, this lesson was and is about more than learning to write opinion and persuasive pieces. I hope that my students have gained a lifelong lesson that their voices matter to those around them, no matter their age, and that they always have a means to bring about the changes that they wish to see in our world. I thank you in advance for your thoughtful consideration of their request.
Dear Dr. Schilder and the members of the East Penn School Board, we think that elementary and middle school students should have 1 p.m. dismissal during PSSA testing every year from now on. PSSA testing is very difficult for us. our young brains need rest after such hard work. First of all, PSSAs are as hard for us as midterms and finals are for high schoolers. But they get out early and we don't. PSSAs test a full year of our learning, but midterms and finals only test half a year worth of learning. Also, we have more days of testing, 7, and the high schoolers do, 6. And our testing is all at once over 2 weeks, while theirs is split into 2 3-day testing times. It just doesn't seem fair that we don't get out early like the high school students do. Another reason for early dismissal during testing is that younger kids' brains need breaks more often than older kids' brains do. For example, staying at school isn't much of a break because we can't relax at school as comfortably as we can at home. Our brains are trained to learn while we are at school and relax at home, so we can't fully relax at school because our brains aren't trained for that. You may believe the students will lose out on instructional time if they are dismissed at 1 p.m. after PSSA testing, but we disagree. We believe that this is a good point, but the same can be said for high school students, and they still get out early for testing. How is it okay for them to miss instruction, but not okay for us? We have a compromise to suggest. If you can schedule parent-teacher conferences during the weeks of PSSA testing when there is already 1 p.m. dismissal. This way there won't be any additional days of early dismissal causing loss of instruction. Therefore, we believe that elementary and middle school students should be dismissed at 1 p.m. during PSSA testing. When can we expect this change to our school calendar? Sincerely, Blue Team.
Dear Dr. Schilder and East Penn School Board Directors, we believe that elementary and middle school students should be dismissed at 1 p.m. for PSSA testing. We feel this way because the high school students have early dismissal for testing, and our young brains need breaks after such hard work. First of all, the students at Emmaus High School have early dismissal for midterms and final exams. So why don't we have early dismissal for our exams, the PSSAs? Midterms and finals only test a half year of learning, but PSSAs test a full year of learning and are harder. So that's the reason. That's one reason to have early dismissal for PSSAs. Also, there are 6 early dismissal days for high school testing, only 3 days at a time twice a year. But we have 7 days of testing within 2 weeks, which is harder, especially for younger students.
Another reason is that our brains are younger and need breaks more often than older students' brains. Research shows that students learn and perform better if they have more breaks. So kids will do better on the PSSAs if they are dismissed at 1 p.m. after testing, because they'll have more of a break for their brains than they do now. In addition, high schoolers' brains are more mature, so they should be able to handle the testing better without early dismissal. But they have it and we don't. That doesn't make sense. Although you may believe that more early dismissal days would mean more loss of instructional time, we disagree. How is it okay for high school students to lose instructional time during early dismissals when their learning is harder and they are preparing for college, but it isn't okay for us in the younger grades whose learning isn't quite as important to have the same privilege? We have a compromise to suggest. To keep from losing more instructional time, we think that parent-teacher conferences should be scheduled during PSSA testing when there's already an expectation of 1 p.m. dismissal for families.
For these reasons, we feel that elementary and middle school students should have 1 p.m. dismissal during PSSAs. We look forward to getting out early in April during our testing days. Sincerely, White Team. Dr. Schilder and the Board of Directors for East Penn. We believe that all elementary and middle school students should have early dismissal on the days of PSSA testing. We think this should happen because the high school students have early dismissal for their exams, and our brains need more time to relax after testing.
High school students get early dismissal for their exams, so shouldn't we have the same schedule for ours? We work just as hard on the PSSAs as the high schoolers work on their exams. Our testing is longer, 7 days at once, than theirs, 3 days twice a year. High schoolers' brains are more mature than ours, so they shouldn't need the breaks as much as our younger brains do.
Research shows that our brains can only fully relax in areas that are used for relaxing regularly, which is not at school. Since we are best able to relax at home, which is important after testing according to counselors, we should be given more time to relax at home, which can happen through early dismissal after PSSAs. We are able to choose what relaxes us if we are at home, such as play outside, spend time with family and friends, and or take a nap, which we can't do at school.
You might believe that early dismissal days for testing would lead to a lack of instructional time, but we disagree. Our teachers don't plan instruction in the afternoon after PSSAs because they know that we need a break. The more rested our brains are each day, the better we will do on the PSSAs. We suggest that you schedule parent-teacher conferences the same week as the PSSAs when we would already have dismissal at 1 p.m. so we can still get out early for a break after testing but not lose additional instruction time. In conclusion, those are the reasons we feel that elementary and middle school students should have 1 p.m. dismissal during PSSAs. We look forward to seeing this change on the school calendar. Sincerely, Red Team.
Thank you very much. And I will say to our young students, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to present your opinions to a bunch of older people. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. Next, we have our approval of minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Schiller.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I have a couple of recognition statements or pieces that I'd like to read. First of all, regarding the middle schools, Lower Macungie Middle School and higher middle school students are both competed last week in the 2017 What's So Cool at Manufacturing Student Video Contest. This Lehigh Valley Student Video Contest features middle school teams from Lehigh, Northampton, Schuylkill, and Carbon counties. More than 160,000 votes have been cast for the Viewers' Choice Awards, and we will not know who won, I believe, until tomorrow, so I'm not able to announce that. We'll have to wait, but we want to wish those students at both middle schools the best of luck. IRE also is hosting a water bottle fundraiser in honor of Sean Boyle, an IRE 8th grade social studies teacher currently serving in the U.S. military in East Africa. Proceeds from this fundraiser will be used to help fund a well through waterboys.org and send Polaroid cameras, film, and batteries to the military base where Mr. Boyle is stationed. Cameras will help East African children form a better self-identity through the simple act of giving them photographs of themselves. Wish them the best of luck. Also, I wanted to share with the board and the public, this morning I had the privilege of going into high school social studies classes. There were actually several groups of classes that were put together, and hearing the students debrief on a field trip that they took. 34 of them took a field trip to an Allentown mosque, the Muslim Association of Lehigh Valley, and these were from 11th grade world study classes under the direction of teacher Jonathan Zalomi. And so what I heard when I went into those classes was kind of a debriefing, what they witnessed, what they felt, and so forth. They actually witnessed, and they didn't really partake, but they witnessed a religious ceremony. And then there was a question and answer period afterwards, and they met with representatives of the mosque, and I believe they were fed lunch. And so some of the takeaways I wanted to share with you, and there were many, and I won't go through them all, but a few of the students said that they found it striking how much in common that they felt there was with this ceremony and Christianity. They were surprised about that. They also asked very pointed questions in the question and answer period afterwards about discrimination and about related political issues, let's just say. And they were very surprised to hear the responses were of the Muslims were positive, hopeful, and it was all about peace. They were surprised. Even the teacher, I think, was holding his breath a little bit as these questions were being asked, and it was just a very calm, hopeful type of response. The students said we felt welcome. Everyone was so polite and so kind. And I'll read you the actual, I should have done this again, the educational goals in this. Number 1, provide students with a relevant life experience to supplement the modern Middle East unit of World Studies courses offered at Emmaus High School. Number 2, provide students with an insight on the culture and religion of Muslim classmates, co-workers, and neighbors. Number 3, provide students with a citable base for rebuttal and defense against bigoted language directed against Muslims and other religious minorities. And based on what I heard with that debriefing session today, I would say all 3 of those goals were absolutely accomplished. So it was wonderful to see and to hear. That concludes my.
Thank you, Dr. Schilder. Any comments for Dr. Schilder or questions? Is that a raised hand? No. Okay. All right, thank you. Next, we have the 7 Generations Charter School Renewal. May I have a motion, please? Second. Okay, Dr. Schilder, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, I'd like to make a couple of comments. First of all, this was a process, a rather lengthy process, began in September of 2016, concluded January 30th, 2017. The process was chaired by our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Torma, who I will say did an outstanding job with this entire process. The participants for East Penn School District were Kristen Campbell, Tom Marabella, Linda Picaric, Michael Moan, Bob Saul, and Mike Schilder. And I would characterize the entire process as thorough, professional, and cooperative. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Denise Torma, who will give fewer details about the process.
Thank you. Good evening. As Dr. Schilder mentioned, the process for the renewal of the 7 Generations Charter began in September 2016 when the East Penn School District received a formal written request for charter renewal from 7 Generations. The district followed the guidance found for renewal of a charter in the Basic Educational Circular for Charter Schools dated October 2004. The circular is meant to serve as a guide for charter schools, school districts, parents, and students. In October, 7 Generations was notified by the superintendent about the charter renewal process, including the documents that the district would require to complete its review. The 16 individual or sets of documents range from annual reports, financial audits, and special education audits, to standardized test results, an independent curriculum audit, and an independent written evaluation of the school. The requested documents were delivered to the district in mid-December. On January 6th, the district central office team met to review the charter renewal process, and on January 20th, it reviewed its findings. In addition to the document review, an on-site visit was held on January 25th. The visit consisted of meetings with members of the administrative team and a co-chairperson of the Board of Trustees and a tour of the facility. A debrief about the on-site visit was held on January 26th. Based on a thorough review of the requested documents and additional information gathered from the on-site visit, the recommendation this evening brought to the board is renewal of the charter with 6 contingencies that have been incorporated into the charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Thompson?
Just a couple of clarification things. There's a couple, or more than a couple, but let me point out a couple of places where we asked the charter school to do a couple of things, like in number 7, shall maintain reasonably detailed records and receipts. And number 20, the charter school shall make timely employee and employer contributions to PSERS. Is there any way, how often do we audit that or check that, or what are the, how do we ensure that the things that we're asking them to do are being done actually? Is there an annual thing? Or?
Yes. They're required to file an annual audit and share that audit with the district.
So the assumption is that those records would, verify that the things we're asking to do would be done, correct?
Correct. And under the charter school law, there's really very little that a school district can do until renewal time. So at renewal time, if they fail to, in a material way, to live up to their charter, at that point, the school district would have grounds for denying the charter. But during the course of the charter, the law really is pretty ruthless. Okay. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of accountability. That's fine. Mr. Kelly?
I remember last time I had something regarding the charter school. It was related to middle school. What grades is involved? What grades will be involved?
Could we use the microphones again, please?
What grades will be involved with the renewal of this charter?
Mr. Ballard?
Yes. First of all, Dr. Schilder, can you say that after the review that was conducted by the administration, it was the administration's determination that 7th generation charter school has met all of the original requirements put into their charter?
That's correct.
Okay. I had put in some questions about the renewal of the agreement because it didn't reference the original agreement, just simply made some statements. And I think I should make sure that information is clarified. I'd asked about the insurance coverage, and there is a review here by Solicitor Fisher that indicates that they are required to have certain limits of liability, and they have those limits in currently enforced. Is that true?
That's true.
And that they also are supposed to indemnify us for any actions that might occur because of the operation of the charter school, as also in the original agreement.
That's also true.
Yes, I just call to mind to everyone that recently there's been a long-running court case that involved payments to PSERS from a defunct charter school that ended up costing a district quite a bit of money to defend, but hopefully that now issue is settled in case law, and we won't have it happen again. When a charter school went defunct, the State Department of Education tried to get the payments for PSERS from the chartering school district, and the chartering school district was not responsible for any of the debts of the charter school when it failed to make the payments. So I just wanted to make sure that those kind of issues were covered in this agreement.
And that was, the answer is yes, and that was a very recent Pennsylvania Supreme Court case. Now the pump over on the charter.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Champagne?
Yes, a couple of clarifying questions. Numbers 17 and 20, what's the difference between the two? Why are they, is there something that is different from the PSERS requirement that they have to do? I'm talking about a retirement program and everything.
There really isn't that much of a difference. It's just covering the basis. One cites to the statute.
Well, the 17 says they have to be enrolled, and 20 says they have to pay it on time.
But it's one of the same, it's not a different program.
It's the same program, but it's very just distinctions.
And then on
24, it says the school's curriculum and all grades to be aligned in both standard, both development and implementation with the Common Core state standards. I didn't, Pennsylvania doesn't have Common Core state standards, but for why are we referencing that?
To me, it's the distinction and with no difference. It is the Pennsylvania Common Core standards as of today. So, I don't see, for me, there's no reason to simply go Pennsylvania Core standards. It's the same thing. The key to me is actually paragraph 23. So if the Common Core standards go away, if anybody's wondering about that, they still have to comply with Chapter 4 regarding academic standards and assessments. That's the key. But right now, it's 24.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Well, first, a follow-up on that last question. I guess I don't, if 23 is the operative paragraph here, why would we write into the charter school agreement reference to a specific set of standards that may or may not be in effect next year or the year after, given the whims of the legislature?
It's the law today. I guess that's the reason.
So if it's not the law tomorrow,
then they will still be accountable under paragraph 23 to whatever the actual standards may be.
but under paragraph 24, in order to comply with the charter, they have to be aligned with Common Core state standards, whether or not they are, there's a legal statute.
Well, they cannot be held to any standards which in the future may not be in existence. So it's a distinction without difference to me. I'm satisfied that 23 holds into whatever the law is. 24 just simply is what the standards are today.
So why don't we excise 24?
Words.
Well, okay, I guess that leads to a more general question I had. Is it, I guess I was a bit surprised that there's no one here from the administration of 7 Generations to answer questions. Is that not part of the process?
It's not part of the process. There are representatives here to witness the process, but no, it is not part of the process in terms of conducting a hearing the board would have with representatives. You could ask questions, we could try to answer them.
I mean, I guess one of the questions I had was sort of what was the position of the charter school administration and their board of trustees about the 6, additional provisions that this administration wants under the charter.
We sent that to them in advance, well in advance of this motion, and they were accepting of those 6 items.
Okay. I guess then, just as a point of order to the president, what would be the procedure for me to offer what I think was a friendly amendment to excise item 24?
We can offer it as a friendly amendment, and if the people who made the motion second agree to it, then yes, otherwise you have to make a formal motion to amend.
Okay, well, I would move that as a friendly amendment.
I believe Ms. Hyde made the motion, is that correct?
Say no. Talk about it.
I will allow it.
And Dr. Fokker, I believe you seconded, is that correct? Reverend Mopsy, is that acceptable to you? Talk about it.
Are we not allowed to?
I thought we were talking about it, that's why I was looking it up.
Well, no, I was going to say, if he makes the motion, then we can talk about it. If it's a friendly amendment, there's some changes.
Yes, I'll say no.
You want to make a motion? Okay, so I make a less friendly. To excise 24.
I'll second.
All right. That's the motion on the table right now, so we'll continue the discussion with that motion. When it comes time to a vote, if the vote is in favor, then it would be adopted with that paragraph struck. If that motion were to fail, then we would revert to the original motion and continue the
So my question would be, and that's why I wanted to talk about this, is I agree with the solicitor. To me, it doesn't make a strong...
It could use those microphones, please.
Sorry. I agree or concur with the solicitor that it does make a strong difference to me. My question would be to either Dr. Schilder or Dr. Torma, is there something in the way this is written where it is useful to have 24 in there? I don't want to strike it if we're going to lose something, but I understand Dr. Munson's point that it seems redundant. So could I get a clarification from the?
Well, I'll give my opinion, and then Dr. Corman, please give yours as well. I agree with our solicitor who said that at a certain point in time. it's
Please
law
use
of
the
land.
microphones.
Please don't yell from the
I-
audience.
I'm-
I will use what I feel is appropriate. It's the law of the land right now. And I don't see taking out something from a document like this that is currently the law. So I understand where item 23 does cover it if it's removed, but I don't see a problem with keeping it in, and I think it's more of a safeguard to make sure the process is very thorough and very clean by referencing to the state common core standards. Dr. Torres?
I agree. I support the inclusion of 24 for those reasons.
No, that was just my question.
I think where I'm coming from when I'm looking at this is if we as East Penn School District have to align with the Common Core while it's in place, why shouldn't we hold 7 generations to that same aspect? And I feel that we have to hold them to the same standards. So if it does disappear, then it disappears for us as well. That's my opinion.
Well, I think, as we discussed, item 23 holds them to the PA core standards. Would it be something as simple as saying, putting a comma after 23 and say currently PA core standards? Because that is, if you want to have that in there, would there be any diminishment? It doesn't make a big deal to me, but it does seem awkward to put something in here that is in some sense redundant in the current case, and if the standards were to change, would actually be wrong. It would be something in here that we're not actually holding them to. So if 23 is the operating requirement, and we want to say, yes, currently it's PA core standards, is there any problem with doing it that way? I do fundamentally have an issue of saying, you will do this, and if something changes, well, you don't have to do that. But it is going to be in the document. So maybe we can't hold them to that if that's not the state standard. But then we have something in the document that we're holding them to, that we have in the document that's not really relevant, I guess, if somehow it changed. So maybe there'd be a way to incorporate it so it's obvious one way or the other if the standards were to change. That's just my opinion. But it's not a big point to either way.
If we decide that 24 stays, I think we should put in the proper title right now, which is PA Core Standards, even though it was just a renaming of the Common Core Standards, and we do have Common Core. Our title right now is PA Core Standards rather than Common Core State Standards.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Bacher that I don't like the idea of having something in here that's redundant. I don't like having something in here that can be quickly outdated. But I also think there is a larger principle here. I agree with Ms. Hyde that the charter school should be held to the same standards that this district is held to, but those standards are not set by us. And I'm skeptical that they're the right standards to be imposing on local communities in the first place. The difference between the state doing it and us writing it into this charter is this is our document that reflects what this board demands. And I'm much less comfortable having this particular board require a set of standards that we really have no control over, that we haven't really discussed. By excising item 24, we eliminate that problem. They're still held to the PA core standards, as Mr. Fisher has said, from paragraph 23. So it seems that, by excising 24, we solve a lot of problems and we don't really create any new problems.
Mr. Rogers?
Would Dr. Munson be amenable to friendly amendment, which your current motion is to excise number 24, and I would just change that to say excise 24 and add to 23 or after the word assessments, comma, currently the Pennsylvania Common Core standards.
Actually, it's the Pennsylvania Core Standard.
Yeah, that's right. So after the word assessments, comma, the Pennsylvania currently, comma, currently the Pennsylvania Core standards. My friendly amendment to your motion.
Well, even though you shot down my friendly amendment, I will accept that friendly amendment.
Mr. Champagne, you said.
Okay. But now we're several levels in, so you have to help us.
No, we're still on the same one.
Because it was friendly
Same
amendment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Torna, any comments on what the board is about to vote on?
Currently entertaining.
What the board is in a friendly manner.
I think with item number 23, which deals with chapter 4, which is basically our curriculum that we use in the state of Pennsylvania, right now Pennsylvania Core Standards. With 24 being proposed to be removed, I agree with Attorney Fisher and Dr. Schilder that I believe both should be in because they solidify one another. Even though if we're covered by chapter 4, if the name was to change for Pennsylvania Core Standards to something else, or if the federal government changed the requirement that we needed standards in Pennsylvania or any of the other states, we would still be covered by both. So I agree with it proposed as is in the charter.
Mr. Ballard?
Could I have a clarification about whether the language included in 24 regarding both development and implementation is something that adds to the requirements in 23? Because that language is not in 23, even with the friendly amendment language. And so I'm wondering if there's something specific about development and implementation that's not covered by 23 referring to chapter 4.
I actually think you have a point. I think another reason why I think it's better to do both things. One supports the other, as Dr. Torma said. Dr. Torma, anything to add to Mr. Ballard's question?
No, we don't. Thank you.
Is there any language that we can see that our schools held to that references that we can kind of associate that being like I'm not knowledgeable in? I'm thinking with parallel. Is there a parallel? I don't have that at my fingertips.
Well, we don't have a charter for the school district, we just have the law, which we're bound to.
And what does the law say? How is it the law written that we have to apply to it?
It's chapter 4 of Title 22 of the Pennsylvania Code is what defines the standards that we have to teach. And I'm sure there's language somewhere in there that says these are the standards that school districts have to meet, but I
think of a parallel. It's not parallel. We have
I called the question on the amendment.
You can't call a question on the amendment, you can call the question on the motion. It's an amended motion. So if you call the question, we'll have debate on the motion, and then any proceed to a vote with no further discussion of anything, then either pass or fail. It's fine if you want to do it, I just want to make sure you understand the ramifications.
Oh, I thought what's on the table, or what's on the table right now is merely dependent on the whole.
No, yeah, under school boards, under Robert's Rules of Order, when there's an amendment, you are voting on the amended motion, not on an amendment to it. So we don't adopt, unlike a legislative body like Congress or the state legislature, they consider each amendment as a separate motion to either incorporate or not. But in a small body, like a school board, the Robert's Rules of Order, it doesn't work that way. An amendment changes the bigger motion.
I withdraw my.
Aren't we voting on whether to, he had an unfriendly amendment? I can see that would be the case if it was a friendly amendment which changed it. But how would we then vote down the amendment and still?
Well, if you vote down the amended motion, then the debate reverts to the original motion.
That's what Irma Gonzalez was asking.
But if he calls the question, we end debate, and the vote is yes, then there's no further discussion on any other parameters. It's not just limited to this 23 and 24, it's 1 through 35.
Let's keep talking.
And I want just to make sure that
That's good, thank you. I did not understand that. Thank you for clarifying.
So you're saying we wouldn't, if we voted down his amendment?
No, we're not voting on the amendment. We're voting on the amended motion as a whole. So the amended motion is that we adopt this, we approve the renewal of the charter with the striking of paragraph 24 and adding comma currently the Pennsylvania core standards at the end of 23. We would be renewing the charter with those changes to this document. That's what the amended motion is. That's what we're
If we vote yes on it, but if we voted it down,
then we would return to the original wording and continue today.
so if he calls the question right now, it would stop discussion, we would vote yes or no on the amendment.
No, on the amended motion.
On the amended motion,
yes.
okay, on the amended motion, if we vote it down, we have a discussion on the as-written motion.
Correct, but if you voted yes, there's no further discussion, we move on.
Okay, that's
I personally have a few other questions about some other paragraphs that I'd like to get answers on. If the debate ends, well, you know, it ends. Ms.
I
Al?
have an additional question.
Certainly. Yeah.
You had
We're
mentioned
considering the whole motion.
You had mentioned about 6 additional line items here. Can you tell what 6 they were?
Yes. Sure. Right. Dr. Torma, we're the 6 from what number to what number?
The number of references are 1, 2, 31, 36, 37, 38, and 39.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
There's 7 paragraphs.
No, omit number 1. That would duplicate. Cover number 2.
Okay. Ms. Al, you still on the floor?
That's fine. I just wondered if they were.
Okay, so I have a couple of comments. One of them was knowing which ones were there. Did we find, when we approved their charter renewal after the first time, we had granted them originally a 3-year charter. We reviewed their charter renewal application. We found several deficiencies in the operation of the charter school at that time. A variety of things, including that no minutes were kept for the Board of Trustees meetings for the entire first year, a clear violation of the Sunshine Act. So there was no record of who voted for what, and there were employees hired with no record of a vote having been taken on any of those employees being hired. There were things like that that we wrote specifically into the renewal as they must comply with these in order to, for us to renew it. And we reviewed all those, and they were in compliance with all those conditions that we put on when we renewed.
That's correct. We reviewed every single one, and they were in compliance.
Okay, great. The second question I had is, did we find any material breaches, new ones that came up during the review that we're asking them to rectify, either through the items that Dr. Torma mentioned or any of the other paragraphs?
Material breaches, no.
Okay, great. And then going back to the fund discussion on 23 and 24, right now we are bound by the Pennsylvania core standards. They are not, contrary to popular belief, they are not equal to the common core standards. They overlap greatly, but it's not a one-to-one match. So I take exception to having language in here that requires them to have the Pennsylvania core standards, but also to comply with a different setup called the Common Core State Standards. If we want to have both language there, I'm totally okay with it, but I think it needs to say the Pennsylvania Core Standards, because we're asking them to comply with two overlapping but not equal things. And so I have some concerns about that. It's like when your boss tells you to do two things at once that you can't do them both and be in compliance with the others. I think that's unfair to them. And so if I'm totally comfortable keeping the language, as Mr. Ballard said, having the development and implementation language there, I think strengthens it. But I think we need to hold them to the Pennsylvania standards, not the Common Core. That's my personal opinion. After.
I don't have a problem with that as long as it's in accordance with law. I have no problem.
Other discussion on the motion?
So are we actually getting a friendly amendment for that? Or?
No, because mine would not be friendly. It would be basically backing out the entire amendment and then making a slight change to the original. And the chair can't introduce amendments, so. Yes, Mr.
Point of order. What's on the table right now? What is, are we debating?
When we vote, we will vote to either renew or not renew the charter of Seven Generations School. If we vote yes on the first vote, at least 5 of us vote yes, then it will be, the language will be changed to add currently the Pennsylvania core standards after 23 and strike in paragraph 24.
Okay.
That's the motion that's before us.
Thank you. That was the question. That was the question. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Items 38 and 39 require some kind of a plan.
30 or 39?
38 and 39 require a plan for the scores and for getting the students from 5th grade to things with the from public school. Are those plans in place?
Dr. Torma, I want to say no, which is why we want to see the plans in place. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Should we see those plans before we vote on this, or should they be in place before we vote on this?
I don't believe so. We need to give them time to put them in place, and then we need to monitor them, make sure they are.
I was concerned what the purpose of the board is.
Yeah, unfortunately, the charter school law basically does that.
Okay.
It's a very weak law, the way it's written. Auditor General called it the weakest charter school law in the nation. Some people have debated that, saying there's some that are even worse. That's not encouraging, right? Yeah, there are things like when we review the charter, you are not allowed to consider the facility as part of the renewal. So they could say, we've taken this 3-bedroom house that's 1,500 square feet, and we're going to put 300 students in it. You can't say, there's no way to put 300 students in that house. It's not a criteria in the law where you can deny a charter, which is crazy.
So there's no timeline that this has to be implemented
Well, the timeline would be when we come to renew it. If they have not done it, then we can hold them accountable to that and choose not to renew their charter at that point. That's the limit of what the procedure the school district is doing. Ms. Al.
Do we currently have someone who would be the person to monitor these types of things, or is that to be appointed?
Right now, the monitor is Dr. Torma. But again, some of these items, I'm not saying that everything in here is going to be checked every month or every 6 months. Mr. Earnshaw is correct in that charter school is obligated to make sure that these are put in place, and then when we review everything from 2020 renewal, that's when we'll look at. Now, some of these do have timelines, and there are certain audits and evaluations that will incorporate a lot of this, and we will be monitoring those evaluations when they come. So, and yes, for the moment, Dr. Torman is the lead person.
No, because I think this would be important to see it up front rather than to wait 2 years and find out that maybe it wasn't done satisfactorily or at all. But I'm sure they'll do something, but I think somebody needs to make sure that they have something in place before they get started.
Mr. Ballard? Would I be mistaken in thinking that if they don't have a transition plan, we're going to see the results in the incoming students from 7th Gen who are currently in the East Bend School District catchment area coming to our 6th grade unprepared?
Perhaps.
Perhaps a more generous way of putting that would be not as prepared as if we had them as 5th grade students.
That goes without saying. Thank you.
Mr. Champagne?
Well, on 39, for example, I mean, why is it not possible to include language that they provide this plan within 30 days after we approve the charter? I mean, there ought to be a way to say, this is important, we think it's important. We'd like to see something within a 30-day period or a 60-day period. And that's typical of documents where you're approving something, but you're saying, holding your feet to the fire, you owe us a plan in 60 days.
I don't think that's within the scope of what the charter law is set up to do. That is putting us now in the position of supervising the charter school. I don't think that's within the scope of what we're supposed to do.
But you're requiring other things to be approved within a time frame. Why is that being different?
Well, because they are within the scope. The audit, some of the other things are reflective of what was originally looked at in the 2012 renewal. So it's a matter of how far our board solicitor feels we should go. I don't feel the administration of East Penn, though, is in a position of actually supervising the operation of the 7th generation charter school. So I'm concerned that we don't want to cross that line.
I've read the charter school law, and our options are really limited. We can approve the renewal or we can reject the renewal. Those are really all that we can do. If we were to choose not to renew their charter, then they would you can almost guarantee with certainty that they would file a lawsuit and ask the state to renew their charter over our objections. So unless we had material objections to that is fundamentally not performing the task of educating students, or it was a patently unsafe environment, something like that, we would lose in court, and we would spend a lot of money on both sides for no reason. If we were to put in a time limit, and let's say they did not comply with it, we could retroactively try to revoke their charter. That would require, again, a lawsuit in order to do it. Would that be considered by the courts a material breach of their charter? Probably not. So we don't have a lot of teeth, unlike in a business where you have contractual obligations and you can put deadlines. It doesn't work that way with the charter school law, which is, again, why it's one of the weakest, if not the weakest in the nation. It's a sad affair that we are given limited tools to monitor, but we're told we're supposed to monitor.
Well, I guess I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of, while we look at it in 5 years, and if they fail to perform, the kids that are the ones that are getting harmed. And, it's, to me, asking to them to submit plans or things that they know that they have to comply with would be a way to hopefully make sure that we're not failing these kids. But if the law is such that it is, that weak, it's unfortunate.
It is, certainly. Now, of course, the board could choose to vote down the renewal, having expressed those concerns, and then it would be up to the administration to work with the charter school to bring back a new proposal for renewal. Or they could simply choose to ignore us and go right to the courts. They would have either option. Fair statement.
There's a whole process this board would have to go through if you were not going to renew their charter. First of all, you would actually have a resolution not to renew based upon an administrative recommendation, number one, that would contain specific reasons under the charter school law why they should not have their charter renewed. Charter school law is somewhat specific. There are 6 particular grounds you could reject the one, but just those 6. And secondly, you would then have to have at least a hearing, if not more than one hearing, to go over that. You would bring an independent counsel to represent the board on this matter. You go through a whole proceeding here, not a very pleasant one way or the other. Just to pick up on a couple of comments I heard, the charter school law is very specific in a few things. In a lot of areas, it's just nebulous. Period. Paragraph 39, for example, it's not a charter school requirement to have a transition plan. This is something the administration has voiced a concern for, which the charter school is willing to agree to. But if they're not willing to agree to, say, 30 days, 60 days, 120 days, whatever the case, then you're going to have to vote up or down one way or the other with their approval and see what happens. So I think this was the best the administration thought was appropriate to simply have a plan with no timeline. They were willing to agree to that. But again, that's the board's call.
I think the administration, we feel comfortable with the wording here. We feel comfortable that there is enough checks and balances. We also feel comfortable with the relationship between us and 7th generation administration. And them agreeing to this, us talking about it, there being really no issues with it. We're comfortable. We do not feel that we're kind of left hanging on this. But on the other hand, we don't want to be put into a gas supervisory position, which was way beyond the law. We feel this is actually a good, effective compromise that does protect kids involved.
Mr. Dawson?
Yeah, just, I don't want to overstep, but it is be helpful clarification for my colleague. I think when you look at this charter that's in front of us, our responsibility is not to run an extra school in our school district, but it's simply just to, based on the way the state law is written, because it resides geographically in our school district, our job, our responsibility as a school board is to make sure that it's a viable thing and it will provide a good, solid education for the children who attend that school. Many of whom, when they finish there, will come to East Penn, but not all of them will. And it's sort of like guidelines, right? We want to see 7th Gen succeed. We want to see the kids there succeed, especially. And so the idea of having a transition plan, we think, would be really helpful for them, so that the kids, when they finish 5th grade, will be successful when they come into middle school, whether it's here or in another school district. And so we're not trying to run the school for them. We just are offering them this suggestion that for their success and the success of the kids, this is a really good idea. They can choose to do this or not do this. It's really not our business until this comes around again. And let's say they've chosen not to do it. We might say, well, you're not acting in the best interests of the kids. This isn't the best way to help kids succeed. Ideally, because of what Dr. Schilder just said, 7th Gen is going to, in good faith, say, yeah, this is a great idea. This is a really good way to help our kids succeed. But whether they do or not, it's not really up to us. Well, this whole document is just to say, if you want to really run a really good school, these are some things you really need to do. And it's our job as stewards in the
according to the state law, to make sure that they have rules and guidelines that will ensure the best education for those kids. It's not for us to determine how they're going to run. That's sort of my
Any discussion on the motion?
Is there any similar instances with previous contracts that were left go, or that everything applied to, even if it was applied by the school, not the state? If it's something similar to this, the previous edition was...
We won't be previously renewed their charter?
Yeah. Was there anything in there that the school put in that was not the state item?
Oh, that's what you
It
mean.
wasn't complied to.
Yes, and they complied to it anyway. It didn't have tight timelines with it, though. It was similar to what you see in item 39, and really 37 and 38. And the wording in 37 and 38 uses the word continue, which implies, and it's true, that they have these systems in place, but we think they need to continue them. So with similar types of wording in the 2012 renewal that we did, as I said earlier, we did check very thoroughly on to make sure that they had made those improvements, which they had. But yes, I think you're right in the sense that some of those could be seen as going beyond what the law requires.
But they were complied to.
They were compliant.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll call the roll, and again, this is on the amended motion to renew the charter with the modified language to 23 and paragraph 24 being removed. Mrs. Allen, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballard.
no on the amended motion.
Ms. Allen.
I think I'll say yes.
Mr. Champagne.
Yes.
Reverend Vanoskis.
Aye.
Dr. Munson.
Aye.
Dr. Bacher.
Aye.
Mr. Donatelli.
Aye.
Ms. Hyde. No. Mr. Earnshaw.
Nay.
6 ayes, 3 nays.
Motion carries. Next item we have is the district calendar.
Yes, I'd like to ask our Assistant Superintendent, Kristen Campbell, to come up and give an overview of calendar.
Good evening. I believe you have a color copy of the calendar in your packets. And I have just a few general statements to provide you with an overview of the proposed 2017-18 student-teacher calendar. The calendar, as I believe we described in the past, is really developed through a collaborative process that begins with our school district administrators, and we also collaborate with administrators in other districts in Lehigh County. That piece of collaborating with our colleagues across the county is particularly important as we plan for programming and consistency in programming for our students who attend LCTI across the county. To develop the East Penn calendar, we begin with some basics, including the fact that our students in East Penn are scheduled for a total of 184 school days, which includes 182 student days, plus 2 snow days that are built into the calendar. I want to point out, as we discussed last year as well, that the history in East Penn is that we schedule our students for 182 days, which is above the state minimum as per Chapter 11 of the PA School Code of 180 days. So the calendar reflects 182 student days plus 2 additional snow days that are built into that calendar for a total of 184 student days. Our students, as you'll notice, tentatively begin the upcoming school year on August 28th, and our last day of school would be on June 11th. Beyond those 2 snow days that I just referenced that are built into the calendar, we have identified additional days that school would be in session if necessary. And those days would be February 16th, March 29th, and April 2nd. You'll see those particular dates delineated on the calendar. It's a shaded yellow color. And if we have more than 2 snow days that occur before identified periods, approaching those dates, the 16th, the 29th, and April 2nd, we would then notify the community that those days, which were days that students were typically scheduled to not be here, would be used as snow makeup days. So we have tried to account for some additional makeup days beyond those 2 that are built into the calendar. After that, should we have a hard winter next year, any additional snow days would be made up by adding days on to the end of the school year. So it would be those days that you see in gray at the end of the calendar, June 12th through the 15th. I will point out to you as well, you'll see quite a bit of red on the calendar. Those are the standardized testing windows which are set by the state. We have keystone exams that are administered for Algebra 1, Biology, and Literature. Those are administered in the winter as well as in the spring. And then primarily in the spring, we have 3 weeks of PSSA testing dates. And if our 5th graders from Lincoln were still here, I would be happy to share with them that actually one of our PSSA testing weeks, which is the week of April 23rd, which happens to be science testing. Now the science PSSA is administered only to students in grades 4 and 8. However, that is a PSSA testing week, and that also coincides with our parent-teacher conference, which would mean that that would be a 1 o'clock dismissal again during the science PSSA. The other piece that I will share with you, just in reference to the earlier discussion, as well as parent-teacher conferences, those conference windows coincide very closely with the end of the marking period, and we really plan with our technology office and our buildings in terms of preparation of report cards and grade reporting. So there is thought and planning that goes into that process as well. So those are really the highlights that I wanted to point out to you. I'm certainly happy if you have any questions this evening, and I believe the calendar would then be on the agenda for a vote at the March meeting.
Questions or comments, Mr. Ross?
Just one typo. In June, you have the 11 shaded gray, but I think that's actually the last day of school.
It is. You're correct. And on, perhaps if you, on white paper, it is actually shaded in violet, so I apologize if it looks different. Yeah, believe me, it's okay. We have a lot of shades on the calendar, but thank you for pointing that out.
It's all the same to me.
It's all great.
Yeah, so did you finalize this calendar before or after you had received the letters from the Lincoln classes?
Actually, we just learned of the letters from the Lincoln students. Dr. Schilder and I had a discussion just a few days ago, perhaps on Friday, and the calendar was prepared for the agenda prior to that.
And so is it possible that the administration wants to take those letters into consideration between now and we vote on this calendar?
I think it would be a discussion perhaps to have with building administrators as well, because the one piece that I could share, particularly at the elementary level, is our students arrive they have to be at school by 9 o'clock. During a 1 o'clock dismissal, students are also scheduled for lunch, and I can share with you that while that leaves 9 o'clock to perhaps 1 o'clock, which is a 4-hour day, as you know, the PSSA is an untimed test. And it does take some time for students to transition in. We do morning announcements in our buildings, do attendance, lunch count, things like that. Typically, students would begin the PSSA testing by about 9:30. But again, it is an untimed test. And what we have found in the past is that actually having a full day gives us some flexibility in the event that we have students. For example, if this were my class and 3 of you still needed extended time, you would then be removed to a separate test session, and you would be allowed to finish the test and take as much time as you needed to finish that test. So I think if it were something we would consider, it would certainly warrant further discussion, in particularly with our administrators, to see what they're seeing in terms of, would that allow us enough time to be sure that no one feels rushed and that the day is not completely disrupted.
Yeah, I guess I'm not and that seems like a very reasonable point. But my question wasn't less about the merits or demerits of their proposal or their compromise, but more if you think it is worth having that discussion with the building principals and so forth before the board votes on the budget, on the recommendation, excuse me, on the calendar, on the recommendation.
We will have, our regular meetings with the administrators is next Thursday. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday, correct?
It's this Thursday.
Oh, it's this Thursday, sorry. It's this Thursday, so we can do that. And I don't have a problem with it. But I'll just give you my opinion. Mrs. Campbell and I have talked about this quite a bit since the Friday session that you and I attended over at Lincoln. My concern is loss of instructional time. And I don't agree with the students that what's currently happening in the afternoon is not instructional across the board. I don't agree with that. I think there's instruction, you may call it quasi-instruction, but there's still reading, there's still math, there are still things being accomplished in the afternoons. And maybe it's not as rigorous as what would normally happen, but it's still being accomplished, and I would hate to lose that. That's a lot of days. So that was my thoughts that I shared with the students, and then after talking with Mrs. Campbell more, but I had no problem in running it by the principals. Maybe they will all turn to me and say, no, that's not the case at all. Certainly.
And fair enough. You know, the sort of one example I remember after PSSA testing, you know, one of my children watched some movie starring Michael Jordan, where it's hard to sort of see the instructional value. But my point was less about the merits and demerits, and more to be sure that you're open to that discussion with the building administrators, and that that there's some willingness to come back with a revision if in your collective estimation.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Because again, I think the other piece particularly that I would want to look more closely at is the end of the marking period in April is April 5th. So we would then just have to be thoughtful about the process of finalizing report cards, because at the elementary level they are shared with parents that Friday before conferences, certainly, so that that conversation about a student's progress can happen during the conference week.
And I also think it would be useful, particularly if you decide not to adopt the recommendation of the students, if you could actually address what I thought was a very nice point at the beginning about, well, wait a minute, the high school kids get to come out, why don't we get to? I think you can, but it would be nice to do that in a way that's
with the students.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd just like to make two comments. One, I'm very glad to see that you're still keeping that wording in the lower left-hand corner about how the days are applied, because that was not present in many earlier versions of the calendar, and it really makes it a lot clearer to people how they're applied. And the second one is, I hate to tell you this, but somebody's reintroduced the bill that prohibits school districts from opening before Labor Day, and we may have to deal with that if it ever gets out of the committee. It's never gotten out of several committees so far, but it's still there and will still come back again in this session. Thank you, Mr.
Any discussion? So, thank you, Mrs. Campbell. I just have one comment about the argument about the 1 o'clock release. I remember my kids with their midterms and their finals, they had materials that they could study in preparation for the next day's test. I'm not sure that my kids ever had material they could study for the PSSA for the next day. So it's a little bit of an apples and oranges comparison. And when you're saying, okay, I've got my calculus final today, but tomorrow I have my American government or my British literature final, they really don't build on one another all that well. Not that I ever discovered in my kids. Certainly not my experience. So, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. Next we have personnel item 6. We have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Discussion on the motion. Mrs. Allen, please call the roll.
Reverend Benastis?
Aye.
Dr. Munson?
Aye.
Dr. Bacher?
Aye.
Mr. Donatelli?
Aye.
Ms. Hyde? Mr. Ballard?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Champagne?
Aye.
Ms. Earnshaw?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Motion carries. Next, business operations, item 7. I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Donatelli?
Aye.
Ms. Hyde? Mr. Ballard?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Champagne?
Aye.
Reverend Manaskis?
Aye.
Dr. Munson?
Aye.
Dr. Bacher?
Aye.
Mr. Earnshaw?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Motion carries. Item 8, curriculum. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Champagne?
Aye.
Reverend Manaskis?
Aye.
Dr. Munson?
Aye.
Dr. Bacher?
Aye.
Mr. Donatelli?
Aye.
Ms. Hyde? Mr. Ballard?
Aye.
Mr. Earnshaw?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Motion carries. Next, we have our policies for third reading and adoption. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Is there anything you wanted to mention about the changes?
There are really no changes other than policy 603.1, budgetary reserve. Sure, all of you know.
Why don't we take this in groups then? Does anyone have any questions, comments, or discussion about items 601 through 603? Mr. Ballard?
That includes 603.1?
No. Since that had to change, I figured we'd discuss that one separately. All right, 603.1. Mr. Donatelli?
Yeah, I thought when Reverend Manaskis last week had brought up about the percentages, I thought we agreed we were going to do 3 or 5%. I thought we were going to put a cap on it. I don't agree with this, or greater, it's too open. I thought we were sticking to that 3 or 5%.
It's really up to the board. I thought we heard a number of board members said they would be comfortable with the 4, I think the word was used, and I did not hear that they want to cap. Again, so it's really.
I'm uncomfortable with it, or greater, leaving that open.
The nice thing about this is when the budget's proposed but not adopted, the board always has the ability to go higher or lower than when the administration proposes when they're assembling the budget. So that's important. Do you have alternate wording you prefer?
I prefer to see the range in there. Like, you know, I mean, if you look at the history.
Right, but can you give me a specific range that you'd like to see?
I would like to see it cap out.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. We're adopting the final language tonight.
I'm gonna say 3 or 5. I'll say 5.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Mr. Ballard?
Yeah, I would go in the opposite direction. We used to have a 5% in there, and now we're allowing 3 to 5%. We're lowering the amount of money that the board has to deal for emergencies and other special situations by doing that. Remember, as I pointed out, if you got it in fund balance, you can't touch it. If you have it in budgetary reserve, you have a shot at it with board approval. I don't like the floor that's been picked, so I would be more in favor of something like 4 to 6%, circling around what we had before.
Other thoughts on this? Mr. Manaskis?
Yeah, I guess I'm the one I was who suggested the floor. I mean, you can, if there's extra and you want to set aside more, I think we should. My concern was that it be sort of a, you know, that you're going to have at least 3% every time, and if the budget allows it, you can have 4 or 5%. The question I had last time when I left, I'm not sure if we got this answered or resolved, and if we did, you can help me remember, is I think the point that Mr. Ballard makes quite often, with which I agree, is that we want to make sure that we have solid financial market bond ratings. We also want to be fiscally responsible. We would rather borrow that money from ourselves rather than have to take a line of credit or go someplace emergency came up, so it makes sense to have a reserve. My question then would be, is 3% a reasonable or sufficient amount to maintain our bond rating? When people look at us to say, that's a healthy school district, they have X amount of dollars reserved. And so that would be into Mr. Saul, I think. Is 3% a good number? And why?
If I can just clarify. So I did a little research since the last board meeting, and everything that I could find talks about fund balance rather than budgetary reserve. Understanding that at the end of the year, when you close out your year, any budgetary reserve that wasn't used becomes fund balance. But there are a number of different places you can look. Moody's rating agency, for instance, recommends between 10% and 25% fund balance. Okay.
Basically, that's for their top rating.
For their top rating would be 10% to 25%. And A level, next level down, would be 2.5% to 10%. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends 2 months of operating expenditures. So you can look many places and find percentages. Generally, it's in the 10% plus range for a good financially stable organization. But when you look at, Moody's will look at several different factors. So just to give you sort of the answer to that question about what affects your bond rating. They look at factors such as your tax base size, the full value per capita, wealth, your median family income in your district, your fund balance trends. So they'll look at where it's going over the last 5 years. Are you trending downward or were you lower trending upward? That's a factor. Your cash balance trend, institutional framework, operating history, debt to full value, debt to revenue, net pension liability to revenue. So I share those just to show there are a number of factors. And when I talk to our bond counsel, they indicated that our fund balance, again remember fund balance, is light at the present. But probably other factors such as the income, other socioeconomic factors are probably pulling that up. So you have those pulling up, but the fund balance really is not healthy, if you will, for the size of our organization. You know, we're at below 5%. Now again, that's fund balance, not budgetary reserve. So in terms of budgetary reserve, it becomes a matter of what's the board comfortable with for the operating contingencies that Dr. Ballard, or Mr. Ballard talks about. So there are really the two issues. One is what are you comfortable with carrying in your budget for contingencies? The other one is where are we at the end of the year? What do we have in terms of reserves? And one final point, they look at all of your reserves. They'll look at your capital reserve and any monies you have set aside. Again, we don't have significant money set aside, but that's part of that total picture they look at. At the end of the day, sorry, at the end of the day,
You still have the floor, Mr.
at the end of the day, what is your ability to make your payments on your debt? That's really what they're digging into. So it's all of those factors that would contribute to you being able to pay off or make your debt payments on a timely manner.
So basically what you're saying is because our debt right now is decreasing, that helps us because we have less of an obligation over time. If we were to all of a sudden build a new school, then those balances become more important, we become higher debt. I mean, part of the factors.
It's one of the factors.
Okay.
Debt to revenue is one of the things.
So then my follow-up question is, a 3% fund or a 3% budget reserve is how many months operating expense?
It's about half a month.
About half.
Yeah, it's talking about, because fund balance, not budgetary.
I'm talking about budgetary reserve.
Yes, so 1/12 or 1 month is about 6 and 2/3%, so
Fair enough.
about a half a month. Yes, that said, many of our expenses are fixed, so our bond payments come out at specific times during the year. So if it was in a month when the bond payment was due, it'd be less of the month, than if it was a month when there was a bond payment, it'd be more of a month.
Sure.
Get it right. Dr. Barker?
I would just make the point, I'm okay with the 3 to 5%, the minimum 3% or 3 to 5%, as long as that's clear. And I think there was a budget last year that had a smaller than 5% budgetary reserve, but it had unallocated fund balance, which we haven't, I mean, that was the first time we had a budget with that in it while I was on the board. So that's sort of a different way. Yeah, you're shaking your head, but my
Yes, unallocated fund balance.
my first 5 budgets, we had negative. Generally had about 0 unallocated fund balance. Anyway, so I'm fine with that as long as it's understood that 3% is not the fund balance, it's the budgetary reserve. I did want to ask, and I just don't know the answer in response to Mr. Ballard's question or statements. I know it's certainly easier, it requires a vote of the board to convert budgetary reserve into expendable funds. I understand there's some mechanism for reopening a budget in a catastrophe. How much more complicated is that process?
Depending on what you're doing with your budget, it can be very complicated. If you're changing your tax rate, you've already sent your tax bills out, you started getting payments, then you're talking about sending out corrected tax bills. Tax bills are lower, you're talking about refunding money. Yeah,
I'm not talking about changing the tax rate. I'm talking about there's an unexpected catastrophe in the district and you have unallocated fund balance that you want to access, but it's not in your budget. Is it possible to reopen the budget and
there is a mechanism for that, Mr. Saul.
Yes, I've never done it, so I'm speaking from how I anticipate that would work. You'd probably go through a similar process you use for adoption of the final budget. You would have certain advertising requirements, public notice requirements, and then again bring back a budget that you would adopt and refile with the. You would file an amended budget with the Commonwealth.
Okay. And then one final question.
I'm sure it takes more than just a majority of the board when you're reopening the budget. Doesn't 2/3, I think.
Oh, it would require a two-thirds stream concern. And then finally, I don't know, people go back farther than I have. I've never been on, since I've been on the board, we haven't ever accessed the budgetary reserve. I don't know what the history is before my time on it. I know it's a good thing to have, but okay, that's all.
Mr. Champagne.
A number of questions. I mean, one of the things that, having thought about this a little bit further after our last meeting, to me, and I think Saul made this point, it's more your balance sheet that's important versus in the long haul for what I see as bond rating is one of the factors. And so while we talk about a budgetary reserve, in no way in the other policy which is in here, which is fund balance, and do we specify what the minimum level we're trying to target. And to me, that seems kind of counterintuitive, because it really, one of the factors the rating agencies are looking for is, say, a 5% fund balance or a certain percentage of operating revenues. We don't talk to that point at all. We talk about budgetary reserve as if it, is the right metric. And I still don't have a problem with targeting a budgetary reserve, but to me, the right metric is how much you want to have in fund balance when you go to the end of the year, if you believe that that is what is one of the criteria. As Mr. Saul said, there are many criteria, but if that is one of the principal criteria that rating agencies look at to ensure that your bond rating stays healthy. So I guess I'm a little, confused as to why we're targeting a specific level of budgetary reserve, yet we're leaving what I think is the more important target that we should be focusing on, which is fund balance, unspecified.
So, Dr. Munson.
Yeah, one question, I guess, for Mr. Saul. At the last meeting, I had mentioned that, the PSBA guideline, when I was reading some stuff in the PSBA guidelines, they suggest that PASBO actually has an algorithm for districts to determine an ideal budgetary reserve. Was I accurate in that?
I went back and looked at that. It was actually mentioned as well in the fund balance webinar
Yes.
that we viewed. It was a book that was published in 1994 by PASBO. I wasn't certain that would be relevant. So they did make mention of it, but again, the copyright is 1994.
Fair enough. Well, that's what I wanted to know. I knew only what was in that webinar. So, and then I guess my second question is a follow-up to Mr. Champagne's. I remember, again, in response to a question I had asked at our last meeting, that Dr. Schilder, you had said you thought it was inappropriate to have a target for the fund balance. Can you say a little bit more about what your reasoning is for that?
I think a board should have total or maximum flexibility in designing its budget. It may sound like a good idea today to lock into a number. It may not be a good idea due to certain circumstances tomorrow or future years. So most fund balance policies that I've seen, for that reason, don't put a number in. They don't. Most boards do not want to be locked into that when they're developing budgets.
Is this a handout, Mr. Adler?
I guess, I'm looking at this, am I correct in what you're saying is 6.5%, roughly $8 million a month is our operating expenses? Right.
6.5% of your budget, so our budget is $140 million. Do the math, it's about $8 million. Rough, 8.5, something like that.
And like you guys just mentioned, we haven't, and I recall a couple years ago, I thought the fund balance and the budgetary reserve had been 5%. And you just confirmed that we haven't used it.
We did not ever transfer money out of the budgetary reserve during the year.
Okay, so are we making an out of all here, putting a cap on this at 5%? Just asking.
Okay, I'd just like to sort of present the historical perspective, I guess. Part of the situation is that if you have a budgetary reserve, you automatically have created a certain amount of cushion at the end of your school year, presuming you're not going to use it. The budgetary reserve is an emergency type fund. So it's a way of ensuring at least this much in the ending fund balance because you put it into the budget, you didn't spend it, so there it is at the end of the budget. So it is in some ways a way of ensuring a certain amount of ending fund balance at the end of the year. And remember that that fund balance has a cushion effect. You have that fund balance in there because you're not all that sure of your expenditures and you're not all that sure of your revenue until it actually comes in. So you have to have some slop in your estimates of your budget to be able to say that you can correct either a shortfall in revenue or an overreach in expenditures and still be within a certain amount of actually collected funds. So the previous years, we had a 5% number in there, and we had a fund balance at the end of the year that was then larger than 5% because of that. The tendency to go toward lower and lower fund balances is disturbing to me because it's both compressing the amount of reliability of our estimates along with the inability to do anything about situations that occur during the year. Now, we formally did not make any transfer of money during this period, but remember we had a situation where 6 months we were not getting the state money that was due the district because they didn't have a budget. And we kept going on in funds that weren't provided by the state because we had a certain amount of funds available in our accounts that at the end of the year would be labeled one thing, in the middle of the year, it's hard to say what they were labeled, but we went through on funds that we didn't have for a while. And the reason we were able to do that and not have to take out what other districts did, which was called a tax anticipation note, in other words, lending at an interest rate, because we had funds in the overall budgetary process. If you cut it too fine, one of these years, what's either going to happen is you're going to get another state impasse, and you're going to be taking out a tax anticipation loan because you physically don't have any money to pay the bills that are coming in. Or B, what you'll end up with is a situation where you have no flexibility at all to be able to do anything with the situation that comes up. One of these two things will occur. So I'm saying, just think this through. If you were in business and planning what you would have to be able to continue, Mr. Saul mentioned the Government Finance Officers Association. They've been around for over 100 years, and they basically have a recommendation, as he mentioned, that is 2 months operating expenses for any government operation. And that's 67%. I
13
think.
and a third percent.
Yeah. 16 and a third percent.
13 and a third.
Okay, so they have a number that's much higher than we've ever had to begin with. So I'm just saying, look at that and think about where you want to be with your ability to respond to situations at the state level and the local level with your budget, and how close you're willing to bet on the accuracy of your estimates on both your revenue and your expenses.
I apologize, you're right, it's about 16.5%. Okay, I haven't made my personal feelings known. First, a couple of things. We talked about budgetary reserve, and this policy, again, is only in the budget development process. That's the key, that very last line of the policy. It does not dictate what the final budget is. It does not tie the board's hands. It just directs the administration to include their best judgment of what the budgetary reserve should be with a minimum amount that the board is comfortable with. So when I look at that minimum amount, if you've got a $140 million budget, that's about $4.2 million, is 3%. I cannot think of any circumstance that would happen in this district of any kind where we would need $4.2 million in cash. Because if we had, like several years ago, a tornado touched down in Allentown and ripped part of the roof off of Darragh High School. If something like that happened here, we have insurance policies. We have a deductible, but the insurance policy would cover most of the cost of repairing the roof. If we had catastrophic flooding, I think our insurance would cover most of that damage. If it didn't, we never build from cash when we do construction. We borrow money. We would issue a bond and do the repairs that way. This $4.2 million, though, if special education things change, the ratio of students to teachers changes, I can't imagine us needing to hire, what is the special ed teacher, about 85,000 a year? So you're talking, like 60 teachers you'd have to hire unanticipated in the middle of the budget year. I can't conceive of any situation where we would need more than $4.2 million in our budgetary reserve. I can't conceive of any situation where we would need more than 1 or 2%, quite frankly. So I'm totally comfortable with the minimum of 3% in the budget development process. And I think the wording here gives the direction to the administration and still gives the board the flexibility to do what they need without unduly. So that second point, Mr. Ballard, you often make he often makes the point that these are estimates when we make a budget. That is true of revenue. It is also true of expenditures, but not only is it an estimate, it is a cap. The administration can't say, well, we missed our guess, and electricity prices were higher, and transportation costs were higher, and fuel was higher, and benefits were higher, so we're going to spend more than was budgeted. They cannot, by law, do that without the board's permission. So it's not, well, there might be some inaccuracy in the estimate of spending. We are capping the expenditures of what we're permitting the administration to spend, and it would only be through deliberate board action that we would permit them to go over that. Now, that said, we have been blessed with very talented administrators, especially superintendents, for my tenure on the board, who have been very careful with their budgets. They are somewhat conservative in budgeting revenues, and I think maybe in just about every year, we have had more revenue than they have. I think there was one year where we might have had a slight shortfall in a few categories that maybe tipped the scale. In every other year, the revenues have been higher than anticipated. And they've always been very disciplined about spending, so that our expenditures have always, without exception, been lower than we budgeted. And I applaud them for their discipline in doing that. The next point that we sometimes have a discussion of, well, what should the percentage be? Doesn't Pennsylvania have a restriction on the amount of unrestricted fund balance you can have? Is it like 8%? So if we had more than an 8% in our fund balance, we would have to restrict that to specific uses. Now, of course, you can play games where you restrict it and then you unrestrict it, and you do that every year, but that kind of is not within the spirit of the law. Maybe it is within the letter of the law. Second, when we compare a school district's budget to a family budget or a business budget, it's not valid, because a family should be reserving for extra expenses, and so should a business. But we are stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And if we're talking about increasing the tax rates simply because we want to have a greater cushion at the end, we better have a really rock-solid case why we need a higher cushion in order to raise taxes. That's why I'm not in favor of just saying, well, let's just run up the fund balance to 2 months' worth of expenses, or about, what is that, doing math in my head, $22 million. I think it would be unconscionable for us to be sitting on $22 million of the taxpayers' money for no other purpose than it makes us feel more comfortable when we've never been in financial situations that are so dire that we would need that kind of cushion. And the final point I wanted to make, yes, we have had times where the state has been delinquent in passing a budget on time and delinquent in sending funding for the schools. But as Mr. Bowders pointed out, virtually every year, about 60% of our funding comes through property taxes. Most of those property taxes are paid in the first 3 months of the fiscal year, and all of them, except the delinquent ones, are paid in the first, December 10th? Is that the final due date? December 30th. December 30th. So in the first 6 months of the year, we get that entire 60% of our funding. So assuming that that's correct, we cannot run out of money in the first 7 months of the year unless we completely, had some kind of disaster that wiped out thousands of homes in the district, and then we would have other issues much greater than our budgetary worry. So I'm comfortable with this, and I think we can be confident that our administrators are going to bring forward fiscally responsible budgets for us. Any other comments? Okay, then we'll go, let's take the rest of the policies in one batch, 604 through 620. Anyone have any comments or questions about any of those? Does anyone wish to make a motion to amend the motion to change the wording of 603.1? Not move on to the language as it is. But keeping the minimum of 3%? Yes. Okay. Is there a second to that? Motion fails for lack of a second. I'm sorry.
Put my hand up.
It's verbal.
That's not.
No, it's verbal.
Oh.
We always second verbally.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion on the motion at this point?
Is it just on this one, or we?
So again, as with all motions that come before us, if an affirmative vote will adopt the policies, including that language change of having, I think we can just put, instead of equal to 3%, say between 3% and 5%, would that meet the, okay. So that would be a yes vote, 5 votes, at least 5 votes yes would adopt these policies with that language change. And if it fails, then we would revert to the original language. Okay, any other discussion? Mrs. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Munson.
Aye.
Dr. Blocker.
Aye.
Mr. Donatelli.
Aye.
Ms. Hyde. Mr. Ballard.
No.
Ms. Allen.
Aye.
Mr. Champagne.
Aye.
Reverend Manaskis.
No.
Mr. Earnshaw.
Nay.
6 ayes, 3 nays.
Motion carries, policies are adopted. Ms. Hyde asked if she could give a report on LCTI, which met last week, so we're allowed to do that at this point.
Thank you. Just a few things. There was a Bosch grant community fund. Bosch has a grant of $30,000, and that's going to go towards the CIT and IT Academy for computers and servers. There's still going to be more student videos that are going to be in production for public relation purposes. They're looking to actually videotapes parents, additional students, graduates, and administrators. And there's also at this time a bid for the auto wing reconfiguration. Right now it's underutilized area. It would actually create 100 extra lockers and 2 changing rooms, and this is currently in the capital budget. And the bond refinancing came in lower than expected, and we were looking at our 2041 debt term still. And they're with that, because it's such a huge undertaking with our technology and our wireless, there was a call for a new committee, a technology committee, to help oversee everything we're going to be using for the bond refinancing. And House Bill 202 is going to be reintroduced, or has been reintroduced. Basically what would happen is it's an alternative pathway to graduation for LCTI students